This is Carolina This Week. Carolina This Week with Tim McGinnis.
Good morning and thanks for joining us. We're talking presidential politics this week. Last week, two possible candidates for president in 2012 came through. Republicans Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico, and Republican Rick Santorum, former senator from Pennsylvania. Rick Santorum was speaking to the Myrtle Beach Tea Party. I was able to talk to him right before he addressed them. Here's my interview with him. Senator, thanks for taking some time to talk with us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Obviously, you're in South Carolina, first in the South GOP primary coming up. You ready to say that you're going to run for president?
Like I've been very consistent in saying, I'm testing the waters, and everybody knows here at Myrtle Beach, if you're testing the waters, you got to get in the water and swim around a little bit, and that's what we're doing. Just was in New Hampshire yesterday. I'll be back up there next week. Be back here the following week too. So I'm going to get around and talk to folks, get a sense as to what their level of enthusiasm is. I want to help the cause. The cause is to make sure we have a conservative president in 2013, and whether I'm a candidate or whether I'm a voice out there helping that candidate, I'm still discerning that. But I will say that the water's been warm. The fact that there really isn't wasn't anybody in the 2008 election who was a real full spectrum conservative, someone who Tea Party folks and sort of the base of the Republican Party can be excited about, was one of the reasons I felt like I needed to get out there, because looking at the folks who were in the 2008 race and coming back and running again, if that was going to be our choices, I wasn't going to be particularly happy with them, and so I wanted to make sure at least there was a voice out there, and then we'll wait and see what happens from there.
What do you make of the political climate right now? It seems like every couple of weeks things are changing dramatically. As far as job creation goes, do you think that that's the big issue that I think a lot of people stay focused on here, is everything else changes around us?
You've got 12% unemployment in the state. I mean, this state's been hit hard from the fact that we have a government that is oppressive, that is scaring the living daylights out of every entrepreneur in this country, forcing them to buckle under new regulations. I mean, the Obama administration is a regulation machine out there trying to tell businesses how to run every aspect of their lives, and then they have a whole bunch more with Obamacare and the financial services bill that they just passed late last year. They're going to come forth with hundreds of new regulations, and the business community is just frozen. You throw on top of that the regulation of the banks. I mean, bankers will tell you that while Obama's out there saying we want you to lend money, the regulators are saying you better not lend any money. And so there's this vice grip over the private sector. You throw on top of that the president says I'm going to raise taxes on job creators. Now I compromised to allow the tax rates to stay in place for 2 more years, but in 2 years I'm going to raise those taxes. So he's created a very hostile environment for business. And the other area that I think has been really troubling is his energy policy. I mean, we're seeing now very high prices for oil. That was, if we recall, in the summer of 2008. That's what really sprung us into this recession, was record high energy prices. And here we are back at it again, and we have a president who's shutting down oil and gas drilling in the Gulf. He's not allowing it out in the West. He's not allowing it in Alaska. He is taxing it and regulating it everywhere else, and is running around, standing in front of green cars as if that somehow are going to create a vibrant new economy. Look, the economy will be just fine if you allow the oil and gas and other types of viable fuels to be produced and create the jobs here in this country, and reduce our dependence on dangerous places around the world, which, as you see in the last few weeks, are blowing up in front of our face because we have a president who has basically said we're going to stay away. We don't want to be the moral authority authority in the world. We're not going to be involved in making sure that people are free and safe, and that's in our interest as a country. And so what happens when they see a vacuum? When evil sees a vacuum, they fill it very quickly, and that's what's happening in the Middle East right now.
Let's talk about Egypt for a moment then. What would you be doing if you were in the White House concerning this? Now you have Mubarak's supporters fighting back against some of the protesters. It seems like a powder keg over there.
Well, it is a powder keg, and you know, we spent a long time in this country, you know, nurturing relationships using a concept called realpolitik. Well, you know, it's a power game. You got to be, you know, you got to support who's in power as long as they're good to us. The problem with that is in the Middle East that every country which we have a good relationship with a dictator, the people hate us. Every country where we have a hostile relationship with the dictator, the people love us. So what does that tell you? That tells you that, you know, we have an interest in finding that middle ground where we can have someone. I'm not saying that that every country in the Middle East should have a full-fledged democracy and should look like the United States. It's an Islamic country. It's not going to look like the United States. So what we have to do is find that sweet spot where we have a leader in the country that is allows some freedom and some opportunity and some economic development and some rights and responsibility within the context of Islam, which is not the U.S. And at the same time is open and not in our back pocket, but friendly and willing to work with us. And that's what we should be aiming toward. I think the Bush doctrine of democratizing the Middle East was the right direction. I'm not too sure how realistic it was, but it was the right direction. Obama's doctrine was, let's play with whoever the players are. I think he sees the Middle East, he sees foreign policy as a distraction. He's interested and focused on making the United States a Western European socialist republic. That's his focus. And everything else is a distraction. This is a distraction, and we're seeing what happens when you don't pay attention to these things. You don't actively manage and try to do something to conform the world to the benefit of the United States, and I would argue to the benefit of the United States, it means the benefits to the civilian security of the world. You have situations like this happen.
Well, and Egypt being one of the key supporters of Israel in the Middle East.
Well, look at what's going on in Jordan. Here, right on the other side, already you have Lebanon, which is in the hands of Hezbollah. You have the Palestinian Authority, which is on the southern end, in the hands of Hamas. You have the Egyptians now potentially moving toward the Muslim Brotherhood. Let's hope not, but that's certainly a possibility. And now you have what's going on in Jordan, which is sort of the last remaining friendly area surrounding Israel. That they're having protests in the street. And you already have Syria, which is which is a horrible enemy to the Israelis. So you talk about isolating the Israelis, and again, if you went back 6 months ago and you asked people in Israel, what do you think Barack Obama is doing to engage himself in the Middle East to help Israel? The answer is come down on the side of Hamas and trying to pressure the Israelis. Well, when the rest of the region sees our president siding with terrorists, Hamas, and trying to force a solution to Israel, well, that's just going to create an incentive for everybody to sort of come out in the street and say, well, if they're going to deal with terrorists, they're going to deal with radical Islamists, well, why not us?
Senator, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Senator Rick Santorum. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to ask you about the polarization of politics right now. You're a polarizing figure, like it or not. Do you think that that's...
I stand up for what I believe in. I don't know how polarizing that is. I took some tough stances, what I think are principled positions, and had people in the United States Senate get up and argue vociferously with me. But after the debate, I was able to go over and talk to them, and work with them on things that maybe we had agreements on. I think there's nothing wrong. In fact, it is essential in any society to have heated debates. Why? Because people have very different views of how the world's supposed to look and what they'd like to see done. And the key to America is we've been able to have a society because we allowed, as James Madison referred to it in the around the time of the Constitutional Convention, as the perfect remedy of how people who have very different backgrounds, very different views on things, as they certainly did during the time of the Revolution, clearly, in the different states, how they can come together and they can work together and fight out these differences and still hang together, get along. That's what makes America different. It's not that we don't have differences. It's not that, there aren't polar opposites, but that the polar opposites can come together and feel that because they're allowed at the table, because everyone's allowed in, everyone can voice their opinion, everybody gets a shot at deciding which way we go, then you can leave after the debate's held and say, you know what, I had a fair shot. And what we see with, I think one of the big threats to democracy is our judiciary and the imperial presidents that we see in this president, who's saying, you know what, we're not going to allow you in the public square anymore. We're going to take certain issues and just lift it from you, and we're going to say this is the way it's going to be, and you aren't allowed in the public square to talk about this. In fact, in some cases, people of faith through our courts are being systematically removed from the public square and saying your points of view are not as valid as somebody else's. That is a dangerous thing that's happening in America. And so, am I polarizing? You bet, because I'm going to fight to make sure that everybody, whether I agree with them or don't agree with them, has a chance at having an impact on the policies of this country.
Let me throw out a few names. I just want to get right off the top of your head what you think about the person I throw out there to you. Newt Gingrich.
I was a Newtonian. That's what I called myself. Some of us. So I was in the House in 1991. I came when I was 32 years of age, and one of the reasons I got there was listening to GoPack tapes, which is something that Newt authored. And I'd say he's a very bright guy. He's a great teacher, really great teacher, and taught me a lot when I was in the House. Taught me a lot. Still teaches me things. I mean, I think he's got that kind of deep intellect that I know he's interested in running for president. I think he'll bring a lot to the table in the debates.
You could be debating him one time.
Right.
You're saying some nice things about a possible opponent.
No, well, I mean, look, Newt's a friend. I mean, look, a lot of these guys, I don't know all of them very well, but I know most of the folks who are kicking this around pretty well, and they all have things to commend themselves. So I mean, I don't see this as.
How about Sarah Palin?
I don't really know Sarah. I met her once, just last November, and I was doing election commentary for Fox, and she was walking in one show, and I was walking out of one show, and I was walking in, and we exchanged pleasantries for about 2 minutes. So I really don't know too much about her. I mean, I know what I see, and certainly she brings a lot of energy and enthusiasm and chutzpah to the debate, and I think she'll continue to do that, whether she runs or not. I think she has a future in forming and fomenting that strong conservatism, which I think is really that element of the Republican Party which has been missing in the last few elections.
Barack Obama.
I've served with Barack Obama in 2 years, and I got along with him fine, but I saw him as sort of typical of what I see as sort of the new Democrats that are coming to Washington who can get through the Democratic primary process right now, and that is deeply ideological, unbending in their commitment to transforming this country into something different than it's always been. They like America for what they hope it can be, as opposed to loving America for what it is. And I think that's what I saw. The projects I worked with him on when I was in the Senate, he was incredibly polarizing and partisan. Really refused to work together on some very key and important issues, even as a freshman senator. And that has seemed to carry on in his time as president. I know he's saying a lot of nice things about moving to the middle. I've seen no evidence of that, and I suspect we won't see any of it in the next 2 years.
All right. Well, and over the next 2 years, we might be seeing more of you down here.
I'll be around.
All right, Senator, thank you very much.
Pleasure.